Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of FS Uncut. I am your host, Coach Kojo of the Free Midfield Podcast also. And today I am absolutely honored to have one guy who I've seen everywhere recently who is delivering some absolute masterclasses on Dutch players and Dutch football as a whole. Mr. James Rowe, how are you, sir?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for the lovely introduction.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. Obviously, a lot of fans, when it comes to Dutch football, they've been coming to you straight away. I know you're an avid Arsenal fan also. Unfortunately, Arsenal are not signing Dutch players right now, but you never know.
You never know, but obviously Stauvenberg is an assistant to Arteta. I don't know how much say he actually has, but it comes in cycles, of course. For people that may not know who I am, my name is James Rowe. I'm originally from the UK. I emigrated to the Netherlands well over a decade ago. Okay. And I've been watching Eredivisie football firsthand for more than a decade, as well as the last 4 years conducting my own interviews with professional players and managers, in between lots of Dutch players and managers at all different levels, and also radio experience with TalkSport 1 and 2, and also Love Sport Radio. So it's kept me very busy, but the key is to always keep producing quality regardless of the platform, and let people know things that they might not know.
Yeah, and that's what you do all the time. So I'm glad you're giving us the time. And yeah, I think we'll get started with the Eredivisie. Now, Ajax have lost two key players in Donny van de Beek and Hakim Ziyech. But before we get onto them individually, how much of a loss are they to Ajax?
They are a loss in terms of the success of recent years. But the youth is the lifeblood of the club. When one player leaves, the door is open for another player. Yes. And the biggest difference between Ajax and the Premier League teams is, I've seen it with my own eyes, and it still never ceases to amaze me. Whenever a young player makes their debut for Ajax at the age of 17, 18, 19, they receive such a tremendous reception from the fans, and they give them so much patience and so much time, and they want them to do well. There's never any 5-minute cameos. No, he's not good enough to play for us. It's always patience. And in the case of Van der Beek, he's been there a long, long time. There were, for fans that didn't know, he was linked with Real Madrid here in the Netherlands for a long, long time. It looked as if it was only going to be a question of time before he would sign for Real Madrid. And then all of a sudden, with the pre-season friendly, he was left out of the squad because there was developments in terms of the transfer. And he's really, really excited to play for Manchester United. I translated the transcript of the interview he gave to Dutch media whilst away on international duty. Put that on my timeline this morning. You can follow that on @JamesRoweNL. And it was spread over a couple of tweets, but the gist of it is he's very excited to play for Manchester United. He said about them, they've got a great history of Dutch players, and he can't wait to kind of contribute to scoring goals, making assists, and hopefully winning trophies in that shirt. It's a great honour for him. And I think at the age of 23, I think he'll do very well at Manchester United.
Yeah, well, I'm a United fan myself. Obviously, for this interview, I stay kind of neutral, so I'm wearing a plain shirt instead. But I'm excited to see him. But for any United fans that haven't watched him, apart from maybe Champions League football, what do you think they can expect him? What type of footballer have they brought to the club?
Well, first and foremost, they brought a great character to the club, who's always looking at, who has a great team ethic, and who's always working in the interests of the team. There's no hairs and graces about Donny van de Beek. He's always working in the cog of the team. He's captained Ajax, broke through as a central defensive midfielder, and then also played as a number 8 and an attacking midfielder. But particularly the last 2 seasons, you can see he's got much more of a presence on the pitch. I'm not saying he didn't have that before, but it's been particularly visible in the last 2 seasons. And it'd be very interesting to see how he does. And he's also a very clever player. Manchester United fans can expect late runs into the box, a lot of endeavour. He'll never give up. And his attitude as well, whether he's coming off the bench or whether he's playing different games, he'll always give 100%. It's a very smart move on all facets, really. And a lot of people often say about the difference of the Eredivisie for every Luis Suarez coming to the Premier League, there's an Alphonso Alves. But having watched the league firsthand for more than a decade, the league has always been an acquired taste. You have some clubs who are playing on artificial pitches. They're all switching to grass now, or at least putting the things in place play on a grass pitch. But obviously here in the Netherlands, the finances are supervised a lot more closely.
Right.
Like for people that don't know about the Eredivisie, all Eredivisie teams are financially supervised in the fact that every year they have to hand in their accounts to the Dutch FA.
Right.
And if the Dutch FA, when they run their fine-tooth comb over it, if they find that a club has been spending more than they're earning, or living beyond their means, they will receive sanctions, which could be anything from fines to points deductions to an eventual revoking of your professional license. Where in such a case, it happened. I think the most recent example is RBC Roosendaal, who played Eredivisie football as recently as 2006, and they are now playing in the amateur league, playing on Saturday afternoon. And so it just goes to show the differences, how the different countries work. I mean, obviously here there's a lot less commercial interest, but also with the organisation in terms of the infrastructure. I'm originally from the UK. The Netherlands has now 17.3 million people in terms of a population, and Great Britain has 67. So when you have a population of nearly 50 million people less, you can kind of do these kind of things. So it just goes to show the differences, really.
Do you think that's something that English football are slacking, just to get away from for a second? Do you think that's something that they're slacking in? Because obviously we've heard of many clubs in the past. Wimbledon were one that faded away recently, Bury. Do you think English football needs to take that similar approach rather than depending on the whole FFP thing? Do you think Premier League should take more control of?
I do. But the biggest problem is that the FA and the Premier League are two separate entities. They're not one. Whereas here in the Netherlands, you have the interests of the Dutch national team, and the Dutch FA are top of the tree, and they work in conjunction with the Dutch national team and the Eredivisie. And you're never going to get it right 100%. I mean, the Dutch national team had a period where they missed 2 international tournaments in a row. In the Euros and the World Cup. It's all about generation, but also the Great Britain has 91 professional clubs.
Yes.
And to touch back on my interviews, I spoke to current Assistant Chief Executive of the PFA, Simon Barker, a couple of months ago. And in the interview, he mentioned that they have 100% membership of all professional players and scholars. So therein lies the little differences and the little nuances and that. So it's nice to pass that information on to listeners and viewers, really.
Yeah, no, that's very important information, because that's why I think when we talk about I use Ajax as an example. Ajax over the years have sold a lot of players for big money, but they don't, unlike many other clubs, especially in England, who sell for big money and then you try to use all of that big money to then replace. Like you said, they focus on the youth. They introduce new young talent, invest in the whole infrastructure of the club, and just keep on bringing more talent. That's why we always see talent from Ajax on a year-to-year basis. So it's very important. Back to the players. Hakim Ziyech, another loss. Chelsea fans will be obviously excited to see him. The one clip that always pops up on social media is him in the Champions League playing that pass from right wing to left wing over the top. But he's got a lot more to his game.
Absolutely.
What do you think he brings to Chelsea, and what can he do for them?
He can be very inventive for them, and he's been around for a long time. I remember speaking to Joey van der Berg, who Reading fans may know. He played with Ziyech when they were together at Heerenveen, when they were coached by Marco van Basten. Okay. And Van der Berg said even then, he was a fantastic player. And Ziyech played for FC Twente. He turned down Sampdoria, turned down Genoa, and people were surprised why he remained at Twente and then signed for Ajax. But he's also got a lot of humility. He's a very clever footballer. His passes, his inventiveness. And viewers and listeners might not know, he received an awful lot of criticism when he chose to play for Morocco above the Netherlands. Okay. He was introduced into certain squads by then manager Guus Hiddink, but he was never capped. And then he changed his allegiance to Morocco, and a lot of people gave him so much criticism. And to the point where it was bordering on bullying tactics from certain areas of the media. Right. And I remember one particular interview that I saw where they were asking him, why did you choose to play for Morocco? And he said, my father's buried in Morocco. He said, I feel an attachment to the country. I want to play for the country. And he now captains the country. Yes. And if you look at the Moroccan squad, there's some great players there. And I think the captaincy as well at international level is also a feather in his cap. And I think he'll be able to cope with a lot. I hope he plays very regularly. And I think we'll see Timo Werner getting on to the end of a few passes from Ziyech. And I think he'll be scoring a lot of goals with hopefully Ziyech applying a lot of assists.
Yeah, I think the assumption is that he's going to take the position straight away in which Willian used to operate for Chelsea. But they are I think for me, they are quite different players.
Absolutely.
Technically, what are his best attributes that Chelsea fans should look out for when he comes to the team?
I think the best attributes are he's also got great stamina. He's not just an attacking midfielder which sprays amazing passes and then you never see him. He's got great stamina for a player that can keep supplying balls, always keeps his head up. You know, you never see him very rarely do you see him getting rattled. He's always looking to try something different, he might be at the edge of a box and he might try an exquisite lob from near 25 yards just to try something different. And it was a good move by Chelsea. I think Chelsea have had a tremendous window. I think those 5 players in particular, those 5 players would improve any team. Yes. And I think a lot of people on social media of other clubs, I think they're jealous. I do. I think they're jealous. Yeah. I mean, I've been an Arsenal fan for more than 30 years, and I'm fortunate enough. Before the COVID outbreak, I'm fortunate to go back to the UK to see a couple of games every now and again, which is a fantastic privilege. Yeah. But Arsenal at the moment, we seem to have a fan base that only judge a player on their price tag, not on their previous. And obviously, in my position, speaking to professional players and managers, I know about the other side of things. So obviously, I choose my words carefully. Yeah. But by the same token, I'll put out an opinion, and I'll be written off by all and sundry because it's not an opinion which everybody shares. So, but everybody's different, and you have to respect everybody's opinion. But I just think, in particular, with Arsenal, with the younger generation at the moment, I think it's price tag above previous and quality, and above all character. So I'm hoping we'll see how things go this particular season.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there, because I think there is a huge obsession of not only the price tag but also statistics, and the younger generation refer to it as the eye test. But at the end of the day, it's what you see the player do on the pitch, what they actually bring and help the players do around them. And I think with Ziyech, if he doesn't hit maybe 10 assists and maybe 10 goals, there's going to be immediate criticism of him. But it sometimes takes time for other players. Sometimes the league doesn't work for them. I mean, Diego Forlan came to England, wasn't fantastic here, went to Spain, first season, he was the European Golden Boot winner. I think they got to be patient with these players. But swiftly back to Ajax, they signed 2 players. Mohamed Kudus, I have to say his name correctly, and Anthony. Anthony's one that I'm very excited about. Are they direct replacements, or are they, just
I don't think they're direct replacements. I think to start with Anthony, Ajax have had a flurry of South American activity with Lisandro Martinez and Tagliafico, and I think it's a market which served them well. I think they were very, very close to signing Richarlison before he's moved to Watford a couple of years ago. They were extremely close, and it fell through at the 11th hour. But Anthony will provide great pace and great inventiveness. He's had a good pre-season bowl accounts as well. And Mohamed Kudus as well. I spoke to his former Northern teammate Mikel Rijgaard not so long ago, and he was singing his praises by saying that his attitude in particular for such a young player is very, very impressive, and he's got an eye for goal, and it's a great opportunity for him to grow as well. And I think obviously the expectancy levels of Ajax always remain the same. Before COVID curtailed the Eredivisie season, we had them joint joint top points with Arsene Alkmaar, although Arsene Alkmaar had to go through the qualifiers, and Ajax were allowed to enter the group stage, on the basis that Lyon wouldn't win the Champions League. And it'll be very interesting. I think Arsene will push them very close again, because Arsene in particular, people might not know, they're really reaping the rewards of the investment in youth. They built a whole new training complex, even down to the mentality where the younger groups, every time they go to the training, they go down the corridor, and the closest door to the pitch is kind of like, when you start out all the way down at the corridor, and you kind of move up every changing room till you get to the reserve and to the first team. So it's kind of helped that. And I said in particular, I've got 3 tremendous players in Maidon Boadou and Tone Koopmeiners and Calvin Stengs. So it's testament to the hard work that Arsene have done. PSV Eindhoven as well, with a new manager, and Rogier Smit. People may know him from his time at I think Leverkusen as well.
Yes.
And so it'll be very interesting to see how he gets on, and it should be a good season as well. It'd be very strange without. We had no promotion and relegation due to the COVID, which listeners and viewers might not know. It was very, very hard on Cambuur Leeuwarden in particular, because at the time they were 11 points clear. Right. 11 points clear in March, looking as if they're going to return. They've got a tremendous manager in Henk de Jong, who also managed the Graafschap. I was fortunate enough to interview him back in 2017, I think it was. Okay. And he's got a tremendous character, extremely positive, a very good man manager. And Cambuur, the first division's already started here. And in particular, I know it's very, very early days, but Cambuur Leeuwarden and NAC Breda have started particularly very well. And it'd be very interesting to see what happens this coming season.
Yeah, well, I was going to actually come to that, actually, because AZ and Ajax finished level on points, same amount of wins, same amount of draws, same losses. Obviously, Ajax were on top because of goal difference, which obviously, because the season couldn't finish, maybe AZ will feel a bit gutted, because maybe they thought that they could really push Ajax and maybe get a title this year. Looking forward to next season, who do you think will push Ajax the most? I'm sure Ajax are still the favourites, but who do you think can push them the most?
Feyenoord, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think Dick Advocaat is really enjoying an Indian summer. He really, and he's always had tremendous quality. I mean, but he's one of these managers who, you could say, you've got to enjoy your retirement. But I think, like some other managers, he's so involved in the game, got such a tremendous love for the game, that he's happy doing what he's doing. And he's improved Feyenoord. They look a lot more robust. And I think his expectancy levels are very high. So I think Feyenoord will have a good season. Of course, Arjen Robben is signed for Groningen. Yeah. And, but obviously therein you see the difference of someone who's originally from Groningen, going back to their roots and signing for the club. Yeah. And, family ties as well played a part in that. And there's always a surprise, as in every season. It'll be very interesting to see what happens, and we'll just have to take it game by game. And looking forward to another Eredivisie season.
Awesome. So now, with that, we'll come back to the Premier League now. Another player that actually people wanted to know about. Well, I think they know about him now because he's been here for a couple of months now. Is Steven Bergwijn. Who, to be fair to him, I think he's done quite well at Spurs in his first couple of months there. Very impactful against City, big game. Managed to help them get the win as well. But now he's settled in a little bit more into the Spurs team in London. What do you think? What would your personal expectations of him be this season? What do you think he can do?
I think he can have a solid season. I think he can work together, and I think provide even more assists and even more goals. He's got a great mentality, bags of pace. He's also a very calm and collected player. Things don't go through his head very quickly. Right. And obviously with his in the past youth development with PSV Eindhoven, they demand the traditional top three in particular, but they demand a lot of their players. But at PSV Eindhoven at youth level, especially from the ages of 13 through to 16, 17, for example, they demand a lot, and I think that stood him in good stead. And I think it's a good buy from Tottenham. You know, his best years are ahead of him. He's got an awful lot of pace and a good mentality. And I don't want to say how many goals he might score, but I think maybe I think both as a substitute and also as a starter, I think he'll prove to be quite important for Tottenham.
Yeah, okay, I agree. Actually, I'm a fan of his. But another Dutch player that could be leaving the Premier League is Wijnaldum. Now, when Koeman is at Barcelona, there is a rumor that already starts to do sort of like a Dutch connection with both Wijnaldum and Depay linked with the club. With Wijnaldum, do you think he improves Barcelona considering their current predicament? They've lost Rakitic, and obviously Frankie de Jong's also there already, so another top young talent. Do you think he improves Barcelona if he does go there?
I'm not entirely sure. My personal opinion is I don't think this appointment of Koeman is going to work out.
Okay.
To give viewers a bit of background information, Ronald Koeman has coveted the Barcelona job literally since the man has become a professional football manager. Okay. If you go back and you follow his career, he started out at Vitesse here, had some great results. Vitesse are a good club with particularly a very good youth academy, and then signed for Ajax. He then went on to manage Benfica, became Valencia manager. And in the press conference, I couldn't believe my ears when he said that this is a tremendous step to eventually become Barcelona manager one day. And I thought, my goodness, you know, the third biggest team. I mean, before the Simeone era of Atletico, Valencia were always the third biggest team of Spain, with what went before with Mendieta and Hector Cúper, but even in the 70s with Mario Kempes, But when he arrived at Valencia, he marginalised Canizares, Albelda, and Ruben Baraja. Yeah. So the whole core and the spine were asked to train apart from the rest of the group. And I read reports this afternoon that he's asked Luis Suarez to do the same at Barcelona, because Luis Suarez is apparently on the verge of signing for Juventus. Yeah. Koeman also had a health episode here in Amsterdam recently. He's an avid cycler, and he was out cycling in the area of Amsterdam, and he had like a health episode where he was taken ill, and he was taken into hospital for observation. And I think when the opportunity come to manage Barcelona, I think due to the health episode, I think he realised that this is his one and only chance, and if he turns this down, he'll never covet the job that he ultimately wanted. He also had a clause put into his contract at the Dutch FA, the KNVB, that if Barcelona come calling, he could leave. Right. And he's given a few interviews to Dutch media where he's made it quite clear already that Griezmann and Frenkie de Jong will play in their natural positions. Okay. I think the transfer will happen because I think Liverpool will look to get some money for Wijnaldum, and his opportunity to go and play in one of the strongest leagues in the world in La Liga. It's not every day that Barcelona comes in for you. So I think the Wijnaldum one is more likely to happen than Depay. Okay. And I think as well that I think it would help consolidate Barcelona. But Barcelona is also a difficult club. You know, you only have to go back to the days of Sir Bobby Robson and Louis van Gaal. You know, it's when things don't go right for them, very rarely do they look inward. It's always outward. So I think that also plays a part. But I think that it will go south. I'll be surprised if he finishes the season. I don't mean that he'll be sacked in the blink of an eye. My prediction is that around January, February time, if they're not in the mix, if they get knocked out of the Champions League early, for example, then I think that could signal the end. But you can understand why he's taking the job. But also as well, you know, to have had spells at Southampton, at Everton and RZ. As I said on a previous podcast, in my opinion, Koeman is very much an opportunist. You know, it's no coincidence that when RZ were in the Champions League after Louis van Gaal left to go and manage Bayern Munich, he became the manager to take them into the Champions League. You know, so it's no coincidence. And when he left Feyenoord and there was talk of Barcelona or talk of a big Spanish club, he signed for Southampton. and then signing for Everton. So he's very much an opportunist. But he had a tremendous career at the club. But I'll be surprised if he lasts the season. But as I say, it's just my own personal opinion.
Well, I wouldn't call it an unfair opinion because, I mean, apart from Guardiola, who managed to leave on his own terms, not many managers, especially for the top two clubs in Spain anyway, tend to stay, even if they do bring success. Sometimes it depends on the style of play, or if they don't start the next season as great or as quickly as they started the other one. It could happen. And obviously with Barcelona, they have this mental block right now over the Champions League where they keep losing after taking maybe the most of incredible leads or so on. So, and obviously recently absolutely being hammered by Bayern Munich. So I wouldn't call it an unfair shout, to be fair. I think that's got quite a lot of merit behind it. Messi. I know my opinion on this situation. To be fair, it's quite strong. I don't want to overshadow it too much. But what is your opinion on this Messi situation? He's staying for another year. What do you think is going to happen with that, personally?
Well, in an ideal world, a club would say to the player, thank you very much for your service and everything you've done for us. Mm-hmm. We're going to grant you your wish and you can go and play elsewhere. And also with the current pandemic we are in worldwide, where you have countries struggling, people worried about their futures, I think it's irresponsible for clubs to expect astronomical transfer fees, particularly for one player who's 33 years old. So I think that Barcelona could have handled it better. But by the same token, I believe they've made a rod for their own back. I'll give you an example. David Villa. David Villa is one of the finest strikers of his generation.
Absolutely.
And David Villa was so fed up with everything going through Messi that he left. You imagine being one of the finest and most respected strikers of your generation. And the club you play for give literally every ball, every attack, every instruction goes through another player. I'm sure that David Villa is a tremendous team player. I think he proved that with his time at Zaragoza. Yeah. But I think it just goes to show that you would have had to annoy him to such an extent or frustrate him to such an extent that he decided to leave. So I think that Barcelona made a rod for their own back. And, they always spoke about the academy, the famous La Masia Academy. You don't see many players coming through now. And, so you reap what you sow, as they say. And they're going to have to work very, very hard to come out of this. But as you said, very rarely do they look inwards. It's always about the president, for example, or what's gone before. But be very interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, well, personally, I think he should have been allowed to go. I for a while I felt like, I mean, now that you said that David Villa thing, it kind of fuels what I thought about the whole Messi situation. That even though he's he's a phenomenal footballer, obviously, one of the greatest we'll ever see play the game in general. But sometimes it's time to move on from a player and just let the team become more of a team, even though he is a team player with regards to all the players he's played with before. But you need to now sometimes just get rid of that one player and let everyone else become much more of a focus, much more key than just Lionel Messi.
Absolutely. And you can also turn it around. Obviously, speaking to players, a transfer abroad is not for everybody. It's not all champagne and Skittles. You can sign for a club, they can change their manager, you can be marginalised, and things can go south very quickly. Yeah. But by the same token, if you look at someone like Zidane, who started out at Bordeaux, Bordeaux are known for wine. They're not known for playing European finals. But but Zidane got them to a European final. Yeah. Started out at Cannes, went to Juventus to become the best player, and then went to Real Madrid. Yeah. Cristiano as well, with Sporting Lisbon, Manchester United, Real Madrid, and then looking for the Sporting Challenge, which has to be commended. And I think with Messi, yes, he is one of the greatest we'll ever see. I've seen both Cristiano and Messi live. I saw Messi play live against Ajax in, I think it was November 2014 when they won here in Amsterdam. Mm-hmm. And he definitely does have an aura. Even in the warm-up, you saw my seat was not far from the 18-yard box, and I was a little bit higher up, just under the second tier of the Cruyff Arena. And you look down at the warm-up, and you see right at the start where the boardings are, people with their camera phones and their flogging. This is just in the warm-up, never mind the game.
Yeah.
And, obviously wanting to get a glimpse of Messi and Iniesta didn't play that game, unfortunately, but I believe Xavi Hernandez did. And Neymar as well. And, but I just think with Messi, I know he's grateful to the club, but a football career is very short. And I would like to think that he will go to another league and try to shine. And hopefully somebody will take a chance on him. But I think next year, the clamour will be so big next year. But I think it's likely next year that maybe the United States or maybe even a return to Argentina will be more probable than another European team. But as I say, that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there could be some truth to that. I mean, I was thinking he'll do something along those lines, just because I keep thinking back to Steven Gerrard. Now, obviously, he didn't have that same sort of mess when he was leaving, but the one thing he said is that I cannot play against Liverpool. And maybe Messi might feel the same way about Barcelona. Maybe. I mean, it might be too much.
Maybe. And Steven Gerrard is without doubt one of the finest footballers of his generation and one of the best players England have ever produced. Yeah. With fantastic leadership qualities and tremendous footballing skills. But also to say that I cannot play against Liverpool. I understand where he's coming from. And I'm not saying that Steven Gerrard isn't professional, because he quite clearly is. Yeah. But a true, real professional. I mean, I can understand him not signing for another domestic club. That's completely understandable. But for example, I've been to Los Angeles on holiday. It must be a lovely place to live. But it didn't necessarily have to go that far. But everybody's different, really.
Yeah, that's true. Right, just a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap it up there. Quick one. Luis Suarez has been linked. Obviously, we know he probably will leave Barcelona this summer. He's been linked with Juventus. People are saying that it's done. But he was also linked with Ajax. When he was there, correct me if I'm wrong, 159 appearances, 111 goals, 68 assists. I hope I memorized that perfectly. What is the opinion of Suarez at Ajax? Because obviously he was phenomenal for them. Would they love him back?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. But I must let listeners and viewers know Suarez, before signing for Ajax, also plays for Groningen. And you can't discount Groningen for getting him to the Netherlands and giving him the base upon which to work from. It's not just that Suarez signed for Ajax and that's where it all started. Obviously, Groningen have a good scouting network too. And it was just a complete freak of nature. I mean, I've been fortunate in the last 10 years to see Suarez firsthand, Eriksen firsthand, and two in particular, two excellent players. And Suarez would do things that you wouldn't believe. I remember going to a match in the Europa League in 2009 against Olympique Marseille. It was I believe, a 2-2 draw, and Suarez fought like a street fighter. In terms of he charged down every single ball. It was a white hot atmosphere. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to see in excess of 80 live games for Ajax in the last decade, and the European nights against Barcelona, Paris Saint-Germain, and Benfica, and many others stick in the memory. But if you ask me to think back to one where Luis Suarez kind of really ran the show and showed everything that he was about, it was that game. It was just a tremendous game, and he did ever so well. And unfortunately, they just fell short. But he was charging balls down. He was trying to make things happen, and just a tremendous player with an amazing attitude. And I think the Netherlands can also be very lucky, but he didn't play in the World Cup semi-final against the Netherlands. Because my personal opinion is, with that semi-final against Uruguay against the Netherlands, Uruguay had 4 players out due to injuries and suspensions. If all 4 of them would have played, I doubt the Netherlands would have reached that final. And for a country of 3.5 million, I think Uruguay are just they're kind of like shining light to the rest of the world, really, where they have a conveyor belt of, if you are good enough, regardless of age, regardless of background, you will play for the Uruguayan national team. And I think they're everything which is good about international football. Because I think in terms of European international football, there's far too much behind the scenes. Like, for example, you know the Turkish striker Emre Mor?
Yes, yeah.
Did you know that he was capped for Denmark at youth level?
Yeah.
Yeah, and to go through all the categories and then change right at the end when Denmark were kind of counting on him and things like that. You know, it's obviously it's an individual choice, and the romantic in me would like to think that every professional footballer, when they're playing international football, they choose with their heart, because because the short of it is that international football is supposed to be the best of what one country has against the best of another. When you start to mix it and it starts to become a bit diluted and blurred, that's where things start to get a little bit complicated.
Yeah, I agree. The second question quickly was how influential was Edwin van der Sar in the Van der Beek deal? Obviously, we've spoken about Van der Beek already, but United fans, the love connection, Van der Sar is a United legend. How was he just like the guy that helped him move across quickly, or was he a bit more in the deal?
I think he was quite reserved. I think to let listeners and viewers know, Van der Sar and Overmars of Arsenal, but both of them really, but to speak about Van der Sar, they enjoyed their roles so much that you would forget they were professional footballers. When you read their comments in the news regarding their current roles, they are so on point and they really do care that you would forget that they were professional footballers in their own right. So it's a compliment to them. I think Van der Sar played a little bit of a role, but players speak with one another, players act with one another. I think Van der Beek would have also spoken to Daley Blind. He would have also spoken to Timothy Fosu-Mensah, maybe even Chong, who's gone on loan to Werder Bremen. So it's a small world, football. So I think Van der Sar would have played a part in terms of the general advice and letting him know what's going on. But I think the player himself would have taken it upon himself to speak to others as well.
Okay, and on a personal note, Arsenal have made a couple of signings this summer. Arteta obviously winning the FA Cup and starting the season strong by winning the Community Shield. In the day, it's a game they won against a very, very good Liverpool side, the current champions of England. Firstly, are you happy with the signings so far? Two, would you like more? And finally, what do you want? Maybe not expect, because our expectations are always different, but what would you like for Arsenal to achieve this year?
Right. Okay. If I start from the very beginning, when Gabriel signed, I put out a tweet on my timeline that basically saying that the signing of Gabriel basically means that the path is now blocked for Daniel Ballard and Mark McGuinness. Okay. Daniel Ballard played for Northern Ireland against Romania in the Nations League, but by some Arsenal fans, he's not good enough to play for Arsenal. Right. But therein lies the problem. Somebody dictates and says that a fan dictates and says that he's not good enough to play for Arsenal, but yet he's quite clearly playing international football, so he must be good. Right. Mark McGuinness is above 6'4", and he's great aerial ability. And I was just making the point that, in my opinion, the pathway for these two players to play in the first team has now been blocked. I went to the cinema. I come out of the cinema and my phone literally blew up. I had in excess of 150 retweets and comments. I won't repeat what they were. Some of them were not very nice. I don't read my comments like a madman. Obviously you scroll through, but I'm also in a privileged position where I speak to players. So my perspective is a little bit different. And obviously some agreed, some did not. And I think with Gabriel, you got people tracking planes and looking at the cloud figuration and things like that. And I look at Gabriel, and recent years he played for Dynamo Zagreb and Troyes. Troyes are a yo-yo team in France. Sometimes they'll come up, sometimes they'll go down. And the next thing you know, is good enough to play for Arsenal. I don't quite get that one. And with Willian as well, most wingers lose their pace as they get older. It's a fact of life.
Yeah.
And for a 32-year-old winger, Arsenal have decided to pay him in excess of €220,000 a week.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm a bit of an old romantic, but I was saying on different Arsenal podcasts that before we do anything, obviously we've got a pandemic, you've got to be responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Before we do anything, just go over the youth setup with a fine tooth comb before you spend any money, before you even pick up the phone. But no, obviously I'm a bit too old-fashioned and people don't want to hear from me. I just think you see a lot of clamour for Partey and Aouar from Lyon. It's a big old world out there. To give you an example, I've rated Todd Cantwell from Norwich since he came on loan here to Fortuna Sittard.
Yeah.
He helped Fortuna Sittard to get promoted for the first time in 16 years. And I thought, oh, he's a very good player, so I'll keep my eye on him. Mm. And at the start of the season, I said, oh, I really like the look of Todd Cantwell. I think he's a great player. And I was lambasted. Oh, he's rubbish. He's no good. He's rubbish. The guy did a few keepy uppies and then scored the penalty, which knocked Tottenham out of the FA Cup. All of a sudden, he's good enough for Arsenal.
Yeah.
I said again at the end of the summer, he scored against Arsenal at Carrow Road. I was there. It was a constant threat with balls in behind. And I advocated again signing Todd Cantwell. Oh, he's just been relegated with Norwich. He's not good enough. And I just think you got to look at the facts. We have not won a title for 16 years. And you have to build a spine. And I'm still slightly embarrassed the way that Unai Emery was handled. Okay. I mean, for him to only get 18 months, I spoke to his former teammate and friend Imanol Diakis, who's now managing in Cyprus. They were together at Real Sociedad, and we were talking about Unai Emery, and he said, managers need time.
Of course, yeah.
And if you think of the criticism that Klopp received in his first season, if Liverpool supporters would have had their way, Klopp wouldn't have finished that first season.
Yeah.
But the voice of Arsenal socially appears to be so strong. But then again, at board level, they must also be very, very weak to lend their ears to such a mass. So you asked me about expectations. I think we're going to finish 7th.
Okay.
And I think we're going to win the League Cup. And that's what I think will happen. I hope for a run in the Europa League. I think the fact we got knocked out at the last 32 has been swept under the carpet. But my own personal opinion as well is I prioritise European games coming from Amsterdam. So I've seen a lot of Champions League and Europa League, and the disdain for the opponent. For example, some people referred to Bati Borisov as a Wi-Fi code. They beat us. They beat us in Belarus.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did. And I was at the home leg. Very well. We lost in Brittany. I was at the home leg, the quarter final, and I was saying to everybody, they're a very good side. They've got good players like Benjamin Boriscio and Clément Grenier and Ben Arfa. And in that game, I think I then hit the post, I hit the bar. Yes, Arsenal won 3-0, but I think that flattered them a little bit. And also Frankfurt last November, which was my last European game. I went to Stade Liège at home in Frankfurt. We were winning 1-0, and the goalkeeper, Renaud, of the Danish national team as well, he made some tremendous saves. He made some really... I was behind the goal in the clock end. He made some amazing saves. And I saw Aubameyang walk off the pitch laughing. And I didn't know what he was laughing at. Was he laughing at the fact that he couldn't get the ball in the back of the net? That the keeper is so good. Oh, we'll win this game. Everything will be all right. And we lost the game 2-1. And then I took the train up to Norwich from Liverpool Street in London to Norwich. Yeah. I get in my hotel room and I find out Unai Emery's been sacked. And I just think that I think people are being very disingenuous towards Unai Emery. I still can't believe the vitriol and the spitefulness about the comments even now, even to the fact of mocking someone who speaks a foreign language. Yeah. As someone who speaks foreign languages, if you understand how hard you have to work, regardless of age, regardless of intelligence, If you understand what you need to do, you would never, ever, ever say those things. But some Arsenal fans thought it was okay to do that. I did not. And I think it's going to be a very tough season again. I think maybe 7th. And it's a long road back, as they say.
Yeah. Because, if we're just going to quickly go on Emery, there was a thing about apparently the players didn't respect him too much. And the fans certainly didn't. I mean,
no.
we constantly heard the good evening mockery, which, again, I understand we do banter in this country, kind of anyway, but the one thing you can't mock someone for is, yes, his English might not be perfect, but the fact is he speaks many languages. You cannot mock someone that speaks many languages when you only speak one.
Absolutely, and to have the courage to be born in Hondarribia in the Basque Country and do your press conference, your very first press conference as Arsenal manager in English, takes tremendous courage. And I think people forgot about that. When he was joking with everybody that he watches Peaky Blinders, everybody loved him.
Yeah.
He was even joking, saying, I watch Peaky Blinders. And everyone's like, my manager. And then the next minute they let him go. Yeah. And you have to turn it around as well, that how many British people speak a foreign language. I mean, I came to the Netherlands at a very young age. So I've been speaking Dutch for nearly 15 years, day in, day out. Right. So, of course, every time I open my mouth here, there's progress being made to the point where your Dutch is as good as your English. But if you look at the general consensus, I remember being at school where I would have a French lesson. We'd have a class of 30. Me, along with 5 other pupils, would be listening and writing things down. Other people would be play fighting in the corner and shouting out things that make no sense. And so it just goes to show that we in Great Britain, they need to value languages as well, and respect is very important, regardless of creed, regardless of origin. Life is very short, and it's always important to listen to other people's opinions, even if you don't agree with them. Just try to give them the time of day and try to handle things in a mature way.
Yeah, I agree, and that's a beautiful way to end it. That was perfect. James, I am absolutely so happy that you have given us your time today to speak to us about all these wonderful players, wonderful teams. I am a United fan, but I will say good luck to Arsenal this season.
Thank you very much indeed.
Go on.
I would like to wish Manchester United the best of luck. My grandfather was originally from Belfast. So obviously due to George Best also coming from Belfast, he was a staunch United fan. And he, due to him, even though I'm an Arsenal supporter, being born in London, I've always respected Manchester United, always. So I want them to do well. Obviously, I want my team to win, but if United are playing in finals and things, you want them to do well. And there should be a very interesting season.
Yeah, it should be absolutely incredible. Hopefully, both our teams can go above expectations, but
yes, let's hope so.
Also, yeah, let's definitely hope so. But yes, thank you again for your time, and for everyone else that's been watching this, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I am once again your host, Coach Kojo from the Free Midfield Podcast. This has been the excellent Mr. James Rowe on Twitter, James Rowe NL. Correct?
That's correct.
Absolutely correct. Any other socials?
No, it's just Twitter at the moment, and you can keep up to date with my latest interviews with professional players and managers. Today, Martin O'Connor of Birmingham City was released, and in the next 10 days, we will have, among others, Paul McVeigh, who played for Norwich, Chris Bart-Williams, who played for Sheffield Wednesday, and also John Heron, who played for Celtic. So a real good mix, and onwards and upwards, as they say. Awesome. More to come. Great, achieving great things. Thank you again, sir. And everyone, thank you for watching. This has been FS Uncut. Have a good day. Take care. Bye-bye.